Okay, hello everyone. This is Sharonda, and this is my YouTube channel as well as my Spreaker podcast, Spiritual Sense. Today is September the 27th, which is a Tuesday. And in this podcast, I'll go over topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. So I'm going to briefly dive into the topic for today, but I'd like to state that this podcast, as well as this YouTube channel, is for entertainment purposes. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions or a topic for a future show, you're more than welcome to comment below, okay? So today's topic we're going to discuss is Wiccan. Excuse me. This will be, I think, the third time that I'm speaking on this particular topic, Wiccan. So I'm going to pull up the information that I have listed here. Wiccan is a modern pagan religion. Scholars of religion categorize it as both a new religious movement as well as a part of a cultist stream of Western esotericism. It was developed in England during the first half of the 20th century and was introduced to the public in 1954 by Gerald Gardner, a retired British civil servant. Wicca draws upon a diverse set of ancient pagan and 20th century Hermetic motifs for this theological structure and ritual practices. So it just goes over, Wiccan and things of that nature. It is considered a dual theistic worshiping and working with a goddess and a god, traditionally viewed as triple goddess and the horn god. So in reference to Wiccan, it encompasses both the cycles of the moon, known as S-bats, and commonly associated with the goddess, female deity, and the cycles of the sun, seasonally based festivals known as Sabbaths, and commonly associated with the horn god, male deity. So, without getting too much in depth with Wiccan, because you do have different sets or different parts of Wiccan, and I don't want anyone to feel offended about my perception of Wiccan, but they do believe in spirituality. The practitioners refer to it as a religion. Um, Many people in the past have referred to Wiccan as witchcraft, and as I've gotten did more research on it, some of the practices would be along the lines of witchcraft. However, many people who, such as myself, may do things that will be Wiccan or Wiccan-like, don't refer to myself as um, Wiccan. You know, use of herbs, oils, teas, tonics, and rituals as such. Okay, so theological views within Wicca are diverse. The religion encompasses deists, atheists, agnosticism, and some viewing the religion deities as entities with a literal existence, and other viewing them as um, John Gian, or it's actually Young Gian archetypes or symbols. Even among deistic Wiccans, there are divergent beliefs, and Wicca includes pantheist, monotheist, duotheist, and polytheist. Common to these divergent perspectives, Wiccan deities are viewed as forms of ancient pre-Christian divinities by its practitioners. So, um, it mentions about duotheism. Most early Wiccan groups adhered to the duotheistic worship of a horn god and a mother goddess, with practitioners typically believing that these had been the ancient deities worshipped by the hunter gatherers of the old Stone Age, whose veneration had been passed down in secret right to the present. This theology derived from Egyptologist Margaret Murray's claims about the witch cult in her book, The Witch Cult in Western Europe, published by Oxford University Press in 1921. She claimed that this cult had venerated a horn god at the time of the early modern witch trials, but centuries before it had also worshipped a mother goddess. This duotheistic horn god and mother goddess structure was embraced by Gardner, who was the founder of the religion. So it claimed that it had Stone Age roots and remained the underlying theological basis to his tradition. So it mentions that Gardner claimed that the names of these deities were to be kept secret within the tradition, although in 1964 they were publicly revealed to be Cernunnos and Aradia. The secret Gardenian deity names were subsequently changed. So it just goes on and on and on about the different deities that they worship. I mean, many practitioners of this particular religion go to these different deities and goddesses for fertility, wisdom, and things of the sort. And it just basically goes over that information. Now, in terms of the afterlife, it mentions that belief in the afterlife varies among Wiccans and does not occupy a central place within the religion. As the historian Ronald Holton remarked, the instinctual position of most Wiccans seems to be that if one makes the most of the present life in all respects, then the next life is more or less certainly going to be benefit from the process. And so one may as well concentrate on the present. It is nevertheless a common belief among Wiccans that human beings have a spirit or a soul that survives bodily death. Understandings of what this soul constitutes vary among different traditions, with very Wicca, for example, having adopted a belief from Hawaiian religion that the human being have three souls. Although not accepted by all Wiccans, a belief in reincarnation is the dominant afterlife belief in Wicca. Having been originally espoused by Gardner, understandings of how the cycle of reincarnation operates differ among practitioners. The prominent Wiccan Raymond Buckland, for instance, insisted that human souls will only incarnate into human bodies, whereas other Wiccans believe that a human soul can incarnate into any life form. There is also a common Wiccan belief that any witches will come to be reincarnated as future witches, an idea originally expressed by Gardner. Gardner also articulated the view that the human soul rested for a period between bodily death and its incarnation, with this resting place commonly being referred to as the Summerland among the Wiccan community. This allows many Wiccans to believe that mediums can contact the spirits of the deceased, a belief adopted from spiritualism. So magic. Many Wiccans believe in magic, a manipulative force exercised through the practice of witchcraft or sorcery. Many Wiccans agree the definition of magic offered by ceremonial magicians such as Aleister Crowley, who declared that magic was the science and the art of causing change to occur in conformity with will, while another prominent ceremonial magician, MacGregor Mathers, stated it was the science of the control of the secret forces of nature. Many Wiccans believe magic to be a law of nature, as yet misunderstood or disregarded by the contemporary science. And as such, they do not view it as being supernatural, but a part of what Leo Martello calls the superpowers that reside in the natural. Some Wiccans believe that magic is simply making full use of the five senses to achieve surprising results, which other Wiccans do not claim to know how magic works, merely believing that it does because they have observed it to be so. During ritual practices, which are often staged as sacred circles, Wiccan cast spells or workers intended to bring about real changes in the physical world. Common Wiccan spells include those used for healing, for protection, fertility, or to banish negative influences. Many early Wiccans, such as Alexander Silverleaf and Alice Winfield, referred to their own magic as white magic, while contrasted with black magic, which they associated with evil and Satanism. Sanders also used a similar terminology of left hand path to describe malevolent magic and right hand path to describe magic performed with good intentions. Terminology that have originated with the occultist Helena Blavatsky in the 19th century. Some modern Wiccans, however, have stopped using the white black magic and left hand path uh, dichotomies, arguing, for instance, that the color black should not necessarily have any association with evil. Scholars of religion, Rodney Stark and William Bainbridge, claimed in 1985 that Wicca had reacted to secularization by headlong plunge back into magic, and that it was a reactionary religion which would soon die out. This view was heavily criticized in 1999 by the historians Ronald Houghton, who claimed that the evidence displayed the very opposite, that a large number of Wiccans were in jobs at the cutting edge, such as computer technology. So we're going to proceed to go down to what it mentions about witchcraft, morality, the four elements, ritual practices, and then I'm going to conclude this presentation, okay, with the video. Okay, so witchcraft. Traditionally, the term witchcraft has meant the use of magic to cause harm and misfortune to others, as opposed to helpful white magic. The historian Walter Hanegraaff noted the Wiccan view of witchcraft was an outgrowth of Romantic scholarship. He noted that Gardner, like some previous writers, viewed the witch as a positive antitype, which derives much of its symbolic force from its implicit criticism of dominant Judeo-Christian and Enlightenment values. Hanegraaff noted that Wiccans dismissed uh, various elements traditionally associated with witchcraft, namely infanticide, cannibalism, Satanism, and sexual orgies, by claiming that these were either misunderstandings or fictions invented by the early modern witch hunters. Pearson noted that Wicca provides a framework in which the image of oneself as a witch can be explored and brought into a modern context. Pearson suggested that Wiccans identify with the witch because she is imagined as powerful. She can make people sleep for 100 years. She can see the future. She can curse and kill as well as heal. And of course, she can turn people into frogs. Identifying as a witch also enables Wiccans to link themselves with with those who persecuted in the witch trials of the early modern period, often referred to by Wiccans as the Burning Times. Various practitioners have made the historically inaccurate claim that 9 million people were executed as witches in the early modern period, thus drawing comparison with the killing of 6 million Jews in the Holocaust, and presented themselves as modern witches as persecuted minorities. So I'm not going to get into the morality. I will get into what it mentions about the elements, as it has spirit, water, air, earth, and fire. I'm not going to get into too much depth in terms of that. But in the ritual practices, as I mentioned, that they celebrate Sabbaths, worshiping deities, working magic. Often these take place on a full moon or in some case a new moon, which is known as the Esbat. In typical rites, the coven or solitary assembles inside a ritually cast and purified magic circle. Casting the circle may involve the invocation of the guardians of the cardinal points alongside their respective classical elements, air, fire, water, and earth. Once the circle is cast, a seasonal ritual may be performed. Prayers to the god and goddess are said, and spells are sometimes worked. These may include various forms of raising energy, including raising a cone of power to send healing or other magic to persons outside of the sacred space. So, in constructing his ritual system, Gardner drew up older forms of ceremonial magic, in particular those found in the writings of Aleister Crowley. So it mentions about the classical ritual scheme in British traditional Wicca are one, purification of the sacred space and the participants. Two, casting a circle. Three, calling of the elemental porters. Four, cone of power. Five, drawing down the gods. Six, spell casting. Seven, great rite. Eight, wines, cates, chanting, dancing, games. Nine, farewell to the porters and participants. So it mentions that these rites include a special set of magical tools, as it got mentioned here. So I'm going to say that the Wiccan religion is very very extensive when you go on Wikipedia as to any other religion or information that you get off of Wikipedia, but I'm not going to go too much in depth into this particular religion. I just want to touch bases on that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to proceed with my whiteboard. I'm going to go to full screen and I'm going to proceed with my whiteboard because I actually have a video that I want to, let's see. Let me see if I'm able to pull up my video. Okay. So I hope you're able to see the video, but it's just a small synopsis.
Witches were a long-time symbol to the church of the very worst of paganism. The word witch comes from the Old English Wicca, or wise one, usually a woman, and witches were long seen by the church as unruly feminine powers who tapped into the darkest aspects of Halloween.
In the first century, there is this Christian conviction that all the spirits that other people worship, forces which we would call natural forces, forces of the universe, are actually demonic beings.
As the devil's handmaidens, witches were portrayed as gruesome, violent hags bent on evil and destruction. Witches were put on trial all over Europe, and those found guilty were hanged or burned alive.
The presence of powerful women or sorcerers and witches would have been particularly troubling to the Christian community, and particularly troubling to the clergy. No question they would find that more reprehensible than anything else.
The idea of the witch as the embodiment of evil was so powerful that even animals associated with witches took on demonic reputations. The black cats we decorate Halloween with today came from a belief that the cat, nocturnal by nature, was a witch's spirit, but in animal form.
They were dangerous, they were upsetting the normal male chauvinist universe that has male God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, no woman. So women are not welcome in the hierarchy.
Okay, so that is the closing of that video. And I don't know if you was, I should have shared my screen. Give me just a moment. Let me replay. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to proceed to share my screen. And then I'm going to replay the video. So you'll be able to get an idea as to
I need a lawyer, but I can't
this
afford one.
video.
I'm flat broke. You don't need any money to hire my law firm. We could start working for you today, and we only get paid if we win your case. I called the Ken Nugent law firm after my rep, and they got me over $112,000. I'm not broke anymore. Our job is to maximize the value of your
Okay, so please excuse the advertisement.
One call, that's all.
It's just a minute and a half video.
Witches were a long-time symbol to the church of the very worst of paganism. The word witch comes from the Old English Wicca, or wise woman, usually a woman, and witches were long seen by the church as unruly feminine powers who tapped into the darkest aspects of Halloween.
In the first century, there is this Christian conviction that all the spirits that other people worship, forces which we would call natural forces, forces of the universe, are actually demonic beings.
As the devil's handmaidens, witches were portrayed as gruesome, violent hags bent on evil and destruction. Witches were put on trial all over Europe, and those found guilty were hanged or burned alive.
The presence of powerful women or sorcerers, witches, would have been particularly troubling to the Christian community, particularly troubling to the clergy. No question, they would find that more reprehensible than anything else.
The idea of the witch as the embodiment of evil was so powerful that even animals associated with witches took on demonic reputations. The black cats we decorate Halloween with today came from a belief that the cat, nocturnal by nature, was a witch's spirit, but in animal form.
They were dangerous. They were upsetting the normal male chauvinist universe that it's male God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, no woman. So women are not welcome in the hierarchy.
Okay, so that is going to conclude my YouTube presentation as well as my Sprinkle podcast speaking on the religion of Wicca. And I think because we are headed towards October, which is Halloween in October, which is, knock on wood, it's my favorite holiday. And I think I'm gonna do a little research and present that out in regards to Halloween, even though I don't really partake in the aspect of it. I just like the mystique in it all, the weather, the mystique in it all. I don't really partake in decorating and trick or treating and things of the sort, and I don't allow my children to do so as well. It's just I get inclinations during that time of this time of the year. So okay. But again, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or a topic for a future show, you are more than welcome to comment in the comment section. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.